Charge of the Light Brigade in 5 minutes. The Charge of the Light Brigade is based on a real event in the Crimean War in the 1850s. It was a military disaster, possibly one of the biggest that the British Army has ever suffered, but this poem was meant as propaganda to make it sound a lot better. And even the title sounds heroic, the idea that it's about the charge they made, not what happened to them. Okay? It's broken into 6 sections, each with a specific part of the story. They're setting off in stanza 1, and immediately we get a sense of the imitation at the beginning of, through the sound and rhythm of the horses, because the Light Brigade were a cavalry group. The imitation of the horses going along, so essentially we are placed alongside them. That's Tennyson's intention, so that we feel that we're riding with them. There's a lot of repetition in this poem. One of these is, to begin with, the idea of the valley of death, which comes in 3 times at this point. It then transforms a bit later on into something else to do with death. The valley of death here is obviously a sense of, we use the word hyperbole, exaggeration. It's dramatic. Again, giving a sense of what they're actually doing. Death being capitalized as though it is being personified here. And the fact that it's the 600 who are riding through is a number that sounds big and small at the same time. Okay, it is a large number of people to lose in a single battle, huge number, but small number to fight a huge army on its own. In the second stanza, we move on to just a brief mention of the mistake. He's not really worried about the idea that a mistake was made here. That's the point. That's why it was a military disaster. Again, all that we really get is that idea that someone had blundered. Okay? Not particularly important. Instead, what is important is not the person who blundered, but it's them. Theirs not to make reply, theirs not to reason why, theirs but to do and die. The idea that that's what they do, they're just doing their duty, and on they ride. When we move into the third stanza, we have them approaching and entering the valley itself. We start with this idea of the cannon to right of them, cannon to left of them, cannon in front of them, volleyed and thundered. Now, the word cannon isn't onomatopoeic. It's not named after the sound of a cannon, but there's no doubt that we've got a sense of, first of all, imitating the sound. They do sound a little bit like cannon, as it's going through, and volleyed and thundered at the same time are verbs that are dramatic. Just like the valley of death before, absolutely being attacked, and then of course the same comes with stormed at beneath. And to add to that, we have again the sibilance that is again imitating the sound above. And the valley of death have now become the jaws of death and the mouth of hell. That's what they're going to. How brave can you possibly be than to ride into the mouth of hell? So, it's noted here that they are basically a group that is armed only with swords. Sabres are long curved swords that we used here. And sabring the gunners, which is what they turn into, they are described as doing here, is attacking guns with swords. That shows you again their bravery. Right? But there are swords against guns here at this point. And that's emphasised underneath by the idea that they're also charging an army again. The bravery that we've got here. Meanwhile, that heroism, that almost romantic heroism, is emphasised with the word flashed. Okay? There's no death or guts or blood or anything in this. All we get here is a very romanticised idea of flashing in the sun. what's going on here. Again, the bravery comes. They plunge into the battery smoke. They can't see what's on the other side, but they still plunge in, not thinking otherwise. Okay? And the fact that what they achieved is incredible, according to him. They broke through the line, and they actually made the Cossack and Russians reel from the saber stroke. That's really the only time in here that we get mention of the enemy. They're not that important. What we do get is more sibilance here. Again, the imitation of the sound of the swords that we have. It carries on back to the cannon to right and the volley and thunder, same thing coming through. Notice here they have been transformed into heroes by this time. That's their name. And then the fact that they came through the jaws of death, they came back from the mouth of hell, something that seems almost impossible. Finally, we're told to honour them. So having gone through the fighting success that they have in stanza 4, having gone through the brave defeat that they suffer, we are now told at the end to honour them with a succession of words. Their glory, the wild charge, honour them. They are noble. This is all about the idea of their heroism. The whole thing very clearly presenting a military disaster as something heroic, but focusing entirely on the heroism of the soldiers. And that's what this one's about.